All our session, express session, and we have configured it. Let's create a couple of endpoints, right, to play around with this idea. Right. So first of all, we're going to work with two endpoints. One is going to allow us to set a piece of information on the server, right? And what we'd like to be able to demonstrate is that if I come in and use the URL, and then someone else uses the same URL, the server is able to remember what each one of us is storing, right? Which we can't do that right now, right? There's no way of doing that right now. All right, so let's copy this and let's head over to our Node.js server, and we have let's try this out in a new controller. All right, so we'll call it the session controller. So in here we're going to module.export. The function is going to pass the express instance, and we're going to declare this this endpoint set session. Okay, so the set session function. The set session function is going to receive a request or response just like any other endpoint. But what we're going to do here is that we're going to expect in the data that is being passed to us, right? We're going to expect some information, right? So we're going to parse. We're going to parse out the name and the value from the URL. So we're going to say const name is request.params.name, and we're going to parse out also the value, request params.value. And once we have that, we're going to now use the session that is being passed to us through the request object, request.session. So this session object used to not be there, right? It wasn't there. We turned that on by installing the express.session module, right? So now that it's available to us, what we can do is that this session, right, is targeted to a specific user, right, that is visiting this endpoint, right? If you come in or someone else comes in, this object will be different for each one of us, right? It's keyed off of each one of the cookies from each one of the users, right? So basically, we can track information about different users, and we can put whatever information we want in there. Right? So in particular, what we're going to do is that we're going to use we can use this session as if it were a map, right? Where we can use maybe the name as a key to that map, and then we can store whatever value we want in there. Okay, and the server will remember that this name value pair is only valid for you. If someone else passes something else from a completely different domain, well, it will be for them, right? So once we have that, we're just going to send back the session. We're going to say response. We're going to send back the session object. Yeah, the request.session object. We're going to just send it back so we can take a look at it. All right, so we're going to export this, and now that we exported, we can import it over here. We're going to bring it here. We're going to say require. We're going to head over to the controllers, down to the session controller. There it is, and we're going to pass the app instance. Perfect. All right, so let's try it out. All right, so if we restart, okay, it didn't explode. Let's try it out. So if we go and here in the browser, we try to hit that URL. I believe is what? I forget what it's listening to. Listening at port 3000. So yeah, localhost 3000. And the endpoint is what? The endpoint is API session. So let's write that down. API session set. API session set. So say I'm in here and my application is a weather application, and I want to store, for me, I want to store my zip code, right? So I'm going to say zip and 01827, right? And I do that, and then it comes back. Now I'm sending back all the information that I have about you, right, that I'm storing on the server. Like for instance, I'm remembering that your zip code is 01827. If someone else, maybe using Safari, right, comes in and tries to hit that same URL, right, so let's copy the URL, copy, but they live in a different zip code, 01427 or 57, right? Okay, now it comes back saying that I have for you zip 0457. Make sense? Okay, so each one of us has stored different things, right, for each one of our particular session. And what I'd like to be able to demonstrate here is that when we come back, a little later, the server is still going to remember the information. Right? This is useful so that, for instance, if you're navigating through the the weather channel or your application, right? If you're going from one page to the next, right, you don't have to provide this information over and over and over, right? Because the server is going to remember. Right now, the way we have been doing this is that we have encoded this information as part of the URL, right? And then we can always use that information in the URL, right, to be able to then key off of that and then behave differently and retrieve the relevant information. Here we don't need to do that. We just can remember these things from previous past. So let's see how we can demonstrate that indeed we can remember. All right, so let's do that next.